without free speech, there's a real opportunity for a tyrannical government to take over. We are at the beginnings of that. There are people who know that there's a lot of things that aren't right in the world at the moment, but will not say anything because they're frightened that they'll lose their job. You know, and the fact that that is even a thing should tell you that something isn't right in this world. When you are frightened to give an opinion on something because you're going to get cancelled. The fact that we have that alone should be enough for people to go, I don't want to live in this world. I don't want to live in a world that where you are so scared to say something that you might get cancelled and get sacked from your job. It's not right. And that is a world that I thought was in a country like China or North Korea. And I never thought that I would feel like that in this country.
Yeah, and I said my background is in marketing. We've worked with a lot of big brands, and one of the things that you often see is that people will say things like they might say to us, "Oh, we can't include that. We can't do this." The person telling you that doesn't necessarily agree with that policy. So you may well have found that the people telling you that, sorry, there's no work for you here anymore, they may even completely agree with what you were saying on social media. But it's almost like everyone is afraid of, it's like, but at some point, surely there has to be someone that you're actually afraid of somewhere making decisions. It almost seems like everyone's trying to preempt stuff and they're worried about potential backlash on social media. And and it is very strange. It seems that anyone who does share any opinions like yourself that might differ from the mainstream narrative, they just get labelled as a conspiracy theorist. And then the idea is, okay, they're just shut down now. And
it's a very clever way of doing things, and it's something that's been worked on for a long time in terms of how you shut down a debate, how you don't want to have a conversation with somebody. Is you just go conspiracy theorist, misogynist, racist, anti-Semite. You just use all these terms and go, right, I've used that word now. I don't have to debate with them anymore because I've taken the moral high ground. I've called him a name, and now everyone's going to think he's that. And it's just a really childish way of actually shutting down debate, and it's something that everybody should be concerned about, because without free speech, you have there's a real opportunity for a tyrannical government to take over, and I think we are at the beginnings of that, and it needs to be nipped in the bud, and that's why I decided to speak out.
That's a very scary prospect, and you're certainly not the only one worried about that. I mean, that was one of the big reasons why Elon Musk bought Twitter, now, renamed it as X, is he was given those as a reason. He said, look, if we don't have free speech, he's been working on projects that are designed to make us interplanetary and sustainable energy, and he says none of that matters if the political situation, the public discourse goes so off to one side that we end up with a situation like what you described.
And I think actually, the pendulum has swung so far, in one direction, that I think it's only a matter of time before people actually start standing up, and we're starting to see it a little bit in the last kind of year or so, where people are starting to fight back against it, and you're getting brands being boycotted because of certain views that they've taken. And that I think will happen more and more, because more and more people are starting to go, hang on a minute, this is swung way too far. We all want equality and diversity. We want everything to be equal. But you swing the pendulum too far that way. You go too far that way, you're just as bad as the people where you started over here. There's got to be a point in the middle where there's got to be some kind of equity for everybody, and not just for certain groups. And I think we're seeing people starting to push back against that now.
So you find it encouraging what we've seen, as you say, with the boycotts. I saw some numbers recently saying that Disney attendance is way down, and obviously the Bud Light situation is well publicised. That give you some encouragement? Do you feel a bit more positive seeing these things happen?
I think it does. I think there are times when people are going to say enough is enough, and I think that's definitely happened. I mean, I'm not. I don't really. I don't think we should ever be in a place where we should boycott things.
Okay.
But if you get pushed too far, that's the consequence of it.
Okay.
I'd prefer the pushback to have started a lot earlier, and not have to kind of resort to those boycotting measures. You know, if we had a world where it was fairness and you know, we kind of sat in the middle and give people choices and let people make their own minds up, I think that's the best place you can be in the world. If you go too far that way and go, no, you can't do that, you can't do that, you can't do that, if people keep getting told you can't do that, you can't do that, eventually they're going to go, no, I've had enough now. You get your arse out there and I'm going to do, and they'll end up, by going too far that way, you'll end up kicking back and you'll end up going too far that way again.
Yeah.
And if we can find this place in the middle where we can all kind of get on and have open debate and come, and almost what I'd actually like to see is actually in our country, I prefer some kind of direct democracy rather than the system that we've got at the moment.
Okay.
You know, I think in this day and age with the technology that is available to us, I don't think we need massive governments. I really don't. I feel like government should be a lot smaller, and with the technology available that everybody's got at the press of a button, that we can have votes on things, you know, and there's a way that can be done which can't be corrupted, then, you know, I think that's the way forward. I think we should be able to get rid of the party system, if you like, where MPs are not really in Parliament, you know, for their constituents.
Yeah.
They're basically there to toe the party line.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that system is now so antiquated. I think it's coming to a point where we need to get rid of that system and have a form of direct democracy where you can just vote on a issue without it being a party political issue where, you know, the red party vote for this and the blue party vote for that. Well, hang on, let's take parties out of it and let's just let each individual decide what they feel is best for the country going forward. And that way, that's proper democracy. And then you'll get more than 50% vote for it, then it comes in.
Yeah, which, as you say, surely the technology is there to implement something like that.
Oh, it's 100% there.
I mean, we trust technology with our finances. We trust it with online banking. And so most people would probably feel they want their money more secure than their vote. Probably not all, but if you do trust all your life savings, let's say, to a piece of technology, you probably can get to a place where you feel comfortable having a political say on something.
I would have thought so.
You mentioned around the change in perspective that's happened over the last 3 years. You must feel somewhat vindicated in what you were saying back then that led to the issues with Sky, and that almost every day I seem to see more people changing their opinion and coming round to the fact of, like, you know, now we see, for example, record high inflation and there's all sorts of issues that have come out of it. Is that more frustrating? Is that a bit satisfying to be like, I think I was right still?
I don't find it satisfying in any way. I think what I find satisfying is seeing people who were so entrenched in their views and, you know, going very much with the government narrative and believing everything they heard on the BBC. I get encouraged by people who were in that position who are now big enough to change that view.
Yeah.
Because, you know, that's quite a shift that they've got to take there. And I think it shows an ability to think critically as well, to not just be, that's my view and I'm never changing it. When the evidence comes out and you're able to then change your opinion, I find that encouraging when people now come up to me and will say, Matt, I thought you were a bit mad a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But, and that kind of gives me more hope than anything else that, you know, there is something happening in the world at the moment where people are, you know, starting to look back and think, hang on a minute, maybe we weren't being told the truth a couple of years ago. And I don't feel any great sense of pride in that. Because I've only ever I've only ever said what I felt needed saying and felt like it was the right thing to do that I was saying.
Yeah.
Everything that I've done has come from what I feel in my gut. And yeah, I think with time, and that's why I said I don't really have any regrets, is because the more evidence that comes out, the more it is in support of what I was saying 2 or 3 years ago. Now, if people aren't willing to acknowledge that I don't mind that. That's fine. That's their problem. If they're willing to dismiss that, then I'm not going to change their minds. So I don't lose sleep over that. But it has been encouraging when I go out in public, when people they are regularly coming up to me now and have done more so over the last 18 months, and shaking my hand and saying thank you very much for speaking out, because without people like you, we thought we were going mad. Because we thought the same as you, but nobody in the media would say it. And so that's been really encouraging as well. The last 18 months, more and more people, when I'm out in public, will come and say those things to me and shake my hand.
I think there would be a lot more skepticism going forward from a lot of people if anything
they tried
like
it again.
Exactly, yeah. Or even a lot of other topics as well. Just a general skepticism of like, I'm not just going to believe what's being told because it comes from this media source, as people would have done previously.
Yeah, no, I think there has definitely been a massive shift in the amount of trust people have in the mainstream media. And I think there's a lot of good journalists out there who aren't in the mainstream media that do some good work, and I think more and more people are kind of looking towards those guys for more truthful information and not the propaganda driven stuff that we're seeing on the government funded media channels that we get.
And they can see where their incentives may or may not lie. And
the next big thing is obviously the climate change nonsense. That's the next big narrative that the media are going with, and that we will get bombarded by that 24 hours a day, just like we were bombarded with the COVID 24 hours a day. And I'd hope that people can see the similarities in it, in the techniques that they're using to try and guilt trip you into doing all this stuff, and don't ever let them get you to eat insects.
Don't take away our steaks.
Exactly.
So make sure to like, subscribe and hit the notification bell, and if you want to watch my full exclusive interview with Premier League legend Matt Le Tissier, you can do so right here.